talk to each other. We're not that far apart on feelings and our humanity. I don't think there's that much difference. But we've always said, I would like to heard the gossip around town. Well, that in the last couple, 3 years. Well, I want to tell you something. On December of this year, we will be married 57 years. And it's been a good run. We've had our ups and downs and our shortcomings and fulfillments, and I've always said that God had put us together, and it was providence. And if you've got your mate here tonight, I'd like for you to think along those lines. God had something in mind for you, and He put you together, and you need to make the most of it. In this place this evening, there's quietness, there's contentment, time we can get together and share life. And I think about all of the things that's breaking loose in our world tonight. Young people, listen to me. Listen to your mother and your daddy and your grandparents. Listen to them, because they love you and they want the best for you. Everything outside of your family doesn't think the way your family does. They may want you to do things that'll eventually end you up in trouble. And so you need to listen, to love, and be concerned. And I think the church is the best place for that to happen. But going back to Brother Danny's prayer, and maybe it didn't affect Dan, but did you get homesick some?
Oh, yeah.
How many of you have been homesick? Raise your hand. Listen, it's the worst feeling in the world. Oh, now go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I was 25 months in Germany. We didn't have cell phones. I never talked to anybody on the phone the whole time for 2 years. Clearly no visits. Letters kind of tapered off after a little while. Just very little communication at all. But and Mom and Dad got a whole lot older while I was gone. Hadn't seen them for 2 years. They aged a lot.
My point being tonight, there's young men, I think Austin Akers, Danny and them's grandson. I don't even know if they know where he's at.
Well, no, today I texted his fiance and asked her if he got that if he ever mentioned they got that package from well, we sent him for his birthday today, and she said no. She said I haven't heard from him for quite a while because they're communication lockdown, and that scared me.
Yes.
And Paul said, well, they're probably somewhere off in the way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, something that we can't call it.
For the ones that's maybe never been away from home, it's hard for us to identify what those people are going through. And so, ladies caring and sharing, and we've got some stuff gathered up for military packages. And I called, there was 5 members I called from other congregations. If they've got a person in the military, boy or girl, man or woman, I should say, I told them to get back with me, and I think we've got enough maybe to do. What we have, Sue or Joe, 1, 4?
We're at 4, yeah.
4, and we probably got enough to do some more. And I got voice. Had to leave a voice message on 3 of them. 1, I finally got through that. I said, "Where are these preachers at on Sunday?" What was your comment, Sue? I put you on a spot because I couldn't remember what you said. We had the best time ever was. I think we're going to have to make a big adjustment. We have a tendency to try to talk to each other, and I'm in this room and she's in this one. Now you talk about a debate, you can have it real quick. And so I've reached the point where I say, I holler, time out. And then I go to her and I could hear her and stuff. And so if you're starting to have that same trouble, just try to get in the same room. It's not always easy. But they're supposed to get back with me, and I talked with Mike Linden, and Mike talked like they definitely in that congregation had some military people. So ladies carrying and sharing, that's what's probably going to be coming to you. There's probably going to be some more. We brought a little more fruit. Our garden went wild and crazy, and we brought stuff this morning, and it disappeared. And so we got a little bit more back there tonight, and it needs to disappear. Been blessed, yeah, with a good garden. And so if you don't have a garden, there's tomatoes back there and stuff. And you say, what's that got to do with church? Somebody tell me your definition of church. What are we supposed to talk about? What are we supposed to be doing? It's what?
Love the Lord, love one another.
And that's exactly what we're doing right now. Loving one another. Anybody else got anything you want to say? I want to finish up before we sing our song. I just bear with me because my mind doesn't function as quickly as it used to. But I had about 4 verses, 4 places that I wanted to go that sprang off of this one piece of scripture. And this gentleman here gave us a good background on the Church of Christ. Who it belongs to, when it was started, what's its purpose, what's going to be the end result. He gives that. And in those lectures, they don't get into very much about daily living. And that's where the battle's at. You go through conversions in the Bible. That's boot camp. You're just going through boot camp. When we surrender our lives to the Lord and we're born again of water and the Spirit, just like He commanded at Pentecost, your battle as a soldier of Christ spins off of that, and it comes down to everyday living. I can't remember having, after I got by the wrestle that I had, that I really needed the Lord in my life, and the Lord needed to change my life, and I needed it desperately. And after He done that, I don't go back much on that, because there's nothing to deal with. You obeyed what He said. He loved you, and He said, you're mine now. We don't wrestle with that much, but we wrestle with these everyday problems that confront us all. There's not a person in here that's not going to confront some decision this coming week. You're going to have to make it, or you're going to meet people that may be unpleasant to you. I started doing a simple thing. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. But if I go into a place to be waited on, and you could tell these kids that it's hectic, and it really surprises them when you say, thank you, you did a good job. Thank you for the help. Try that this week. If we get in a rut, we need to get out of the rut. We need to try something different and see what it'll do for not only you, but for the people that it affects. Try to be kind to someone that it's hard to be kind to. Try it. And that goes back to, I'll try to get it right this time. Sue is my guide, and she enlightens me as we go home. She said, Jimmy, there was Bible pages turning all over the house this morning because I got in the wrong place. But that's all right. You all done some looking, didn't you?
We found it.
We found it. All right. But I want to go back to Matthew 6 and 34. Once you become a Christian, once you've got through the rigors of that decision and the sleepless nights about not waking up, or if something happened to you that heaven would be missed and hell would be your permanent home. Once we get past that, then we need to look for places that gives us comfort, gives us understanding, gives us a way to deal with life. And there's plenty in here to do that. And this is a simple one, the 12. I read it this morning. Therefore, whatever you want men to do to you, stop. How do you want people to treat you? And I think we would say, I would want no one to make me feel bad, or make me feel uncomfortable, or belittle me, or make me feel small, or make me feel weak. I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to have someone do me that way. So the flip side of that is, or the reaction, if you will, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets. The whole thing is wrapped up in that one thing. Just try to be a good old human being journeying through life, and let God be your leader. Listen to the voice of God, and you'll never go wrong. Now, I want to, and I gave a couple of illustrations this morning about an action of one individual, and we flipped it around to see the reaction of Lazarus the beggar and the rich man. He could have helped him. All he asked for is nothing big. He said, just a few crumbs from your table. And that man didn't take enough time to even consider another human being. And he paid a tremendous price for it. He said, God said, you just made a mistake. That was a foolish mistake. And tonight, I'm going to take you out. It's over. It's done. You're gone. You'll find, you should have picked up on that this morning. But the ones I want to go to tonight, let me make sure I get it. Yes. Matthew 21, and in the 20th, I want to go to the 22nd chapter. It popped up at the top of my page, Matthew 21, 24. But I want to go to 22, start the chapter. And again, Jesus uses everyday understandable things in a parable. A parable can be a physical illustration or speech, but it has a spiritual meaning. It has a deeper lying meaning than we sometimes look at. Jesus answered and spoke to them again by parables and said, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son. And he sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding, and they were not willing to come. The invitation was given, and we've stressed on this, and a lot of times it's hard to explain something through in a 30-minute sermon. Many are called, few are chosen. And I talked to Tom Steele. He had called me, and I'm sure he wouldn't care for me sharing this. But we got to talking about that, and I gave him an illustration. If you're a CEO of a company, and you put out an invitation for workers, that CEO looks at your credentials, and it's his decision of whether or not you're chosen. Many are called, few are chosen. What does God know about a human? He knows all about us. I think he knows sometimes whether we're suitable material. And you say, that doesn't sound right. But think about it a minute. If you're coaching a ball team, and you say, we're going to have tryouts, that's an invitation. And you look at that material athleticism, you look at a whole lot of different things. But that coach has the option to make cuts. And contrary to a lot of belief in our country, they have downsized God to where many people think he's powerless. There's the danger. But to the Christian, he is everything. He makes the calls. He gives the commands. And I know sometimes people don't like commands. It's his, not ours. It's ours to accept or reject when it is set before us. Now, this king, his son was going to get married. And he fixes this big feast. Listen to what happens. And he sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding, and they were not willing to come. If you're a minister of Christ today, or you are a Christian, whether you want to accept the title or not, you are a servant of God. One of the kids, and I don't remember, Sue maybe could fill me in which one of them, they used to say, you tell them to do, I'm not your servant. I said, yes, you are. You're my servant. There's nothing wrong with servant. When somebody waits on you at a restaurant, they're your servant. Servant means someone that serves. And if you're a Christian today, you are a servant of God. You are a servant of God, chosen according to your ability that you give service to him. But anyway, he sent the invitation out. Hey, everybody's invited. Would you say Paul was a servant of God? He said he was. Peter was a servant of God. They gave the message out to the marriage feast. And we're still doing today what they done in that parable. All of them were invited to a magnificent supper. And they all didn't show up. Now, how would that make you feel? Joe, if you fixed me a supper and invited me to it, and I said, Joe, I ain't got time, how would you feel? I would. I'm not going to do that if you do that. Understand? But I wanted to make a point, is that God has feelings too. Do you think God gets any enjoyment out of sin? It bereaves his heart to see the condition that the world is getting in today, just as it did in the day of Noah. And he said, enough's enough. So we can't hurt God's feelings. A young person, when you disobey your parents, that hurts them. Can also get you hurt too, I want to say. But the point being, you got this supper set. I got to move. Wow. Here was some response. And again, he sent out other servants, saying, tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and fatted calf are killed, and all things are ready. Come to the wedding. There's the invitation. We've got a world today that blames God for everything bad that's going on, even down to the weather. It's not God. It's his opponent. It's another power. It's another source. It's a beautiful wedding. But they made light of it. Many people say, I'll be around when I need you, when I'm sick and flat on my back, and know I am going to die, I will holler at you. You know it's true. You saw it happen. That's an excuse. But they made light of it and went their ways, one to his own farm. That farm was more important to him than a wedding feast. You say, how does that fit today? You got people today doing the same thing. It's more important that I do something else than being in the house of God at a call to worship. Never mind. Whatever it is can probably wait an hour and still get it done. But this one had trouble with the farm. And another to his business. And no business is very confining. But there should never be a point or place in our life when we cannot find time to obey the call of God to be together and to be strengthened and to strengthen each other. I'm going to stop there. There was a wedding feast. Somebody said, I ain't got time. Somebody says, I got to take care of something else. And you can read the rest of that chapter. The next thing I want to get to is what was the flip of that? He set the scene. What happened? You can read it on down in the rest of it. The flip side of that is he said, okay, if you don't want to, you go into the highways, the byways, and you invite people to come. Okay. The next one is in the book of Luke. And it all ties back of treating someone the way you want to be treated. You got two men here to set the scene. He said 10th verse of the 18th chapter. I finally thought of it soon. 18th chapter, starting at the 10th verse. It said 2 men went up to the temple to pray. Both of them had same intention. They were going to the temple, which at that time was a very holy place, and they went there to pray. They went there to talk to God. Because at that particular time, that's where you done it. It was in the temple. And they had rituals that you wouldn't believe that they did. But anyway, here's the difference. One a Pharisee, and the other a tax collector. Keep in mind, both men had the same intent. This tax collector wanted to be in the temple to pray to God, just like the Pharisee did. There's no difference. Here comes the difference. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus within himself. He gave no consideration to the man that was beside him, but he withdrew into himself. God, I thank you that I am not like other men. And he mentions them: extortioners, unjust, adulterers. Nothing wrong to that point, are they? We should be thankful that we're not like other men. We're a cut above that. We're different. Dare to be different if you're a Christian. Dare to be different. Here's where he made the mistake. Or even as this tax collector. Now, how do you think that made that tax collector feel? Well, someone just stood there and said, I thank God that I'm not like other men. That's good. And then he goes on and he comes down to the sins that were committed, and those were bad. They were bad. And instead of stopping there, he looks across and he says, or even as this tax collector. No man has a right to look down on another man. No woman has the right to look down upon another woman. We have no right to pass our thoughts and our intentions hurtfully against someone else. That is ungodly. It's going to get more people in trouble in the day of judgment of God than I think than anything. Why can't we be contented in who we are, what God has made us, how He has taken care of us, how He's loved us? Let's get our mind off of throwing something off on someone else. It's horrible. It's horrible. And young people, You all probably do that more than anybody. That's just a kid thing. And unless you're taught different, don't do that. Don't do that to someone that you wouldn't want them to do that to you. And everybody here tonight, adults and kids, don't do it. It will hurt me. It will hurt you. But let's go on over. These are good things. But we're going to see the flip side of it. He said, I fast twice a week and I give tithes of all that I possess. That didn't get him in trouble. That was a good thing. And in 13, and the tax collector standing afar off would not as much raise his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. There were two men went to the temple with the same intent. One chose to downgrade somebody else. When we downgrade somebody else, it doesn't exalt us. It pulls us down with them. It makes us as guilty as them. And so, I think the tax collector handled it right. He didn't go back at this fellow and say, well, yeah, you do this, you do that. No, he said, God, take care of me. Tax collectors were hated. They worked for the Roman government. They were hated. And he had enough going by just common hate. But he didn't say, yeah, you're a Pharisee, but you do this. Jesus really frowned on the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He really did. Because they said one thing and done the opposite. And so I would have liked to have time to got this all out today, but I said, Sue, if I go too long, sing me down. All you got to do is start your song. I get the message, I'll quit. But I'm going to quit there tonight. And I hope this has done as much for you as it done for me. I found that in there. And I'd made the comment 2 or 3 times, maybe in Bible study, and out of all the things that we try to master in life, go back to that little simple one and master it. See what it'll do for you. I tell people, try it this week. If it don't work, go back to doing what you're doing. You can always go back. You can always go back. I don't recommend it. But learn from the past and walk into the future and see how much better person you could be. I'm going to close there. Let's turn to